Hey, Connie.
Hey, Suzanne.
Okay, thank you guys for coming back. I'm Suzanne Eaglin, and this is my friend Connie Bivens, and we're talking about all things Hallmark.
All
Oh,
things Mark.
last night's movie was really, really good. It was called One Winter Proposal. And
And
so
who's looking for a proposal these days? I have so many ladies in my life that want to be married, and I'm not hating on them because marriage is a wonderful thing.
it absolutely is. So, this movie is a continuation from a movie that played last year. And so, our leading stars is Ben, Kara, Sean, and Megan.
Yes, and they are like what I've said before is that they are some fresh faces to Hallmark for us. They're not brand new. We've seen them before. They were great. Like Suzanne said, they were there last year. And so I enjoyed them last year, Suzanne, in the movie. I enjoyed this year's movie. But it is a welcome to see some fresh actors, some fresh actresses. And I think they brought it home. They hit a home run with this one.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I think the person who plays Kara also is on Mysteries and Movies, Hallmark Mystery and Movies. And so I think she's going to have some nice little series going. But I'm grateful for the work she did in this movie. So let's just get into it. But let's make all of our friends aware of this. So I watched it the night it premiered, which was Saturday night, and you watched it.
I watched it on Sunday. I was out and about, and so I wasn't able to catch it. And I was so grateful because, as you all have heard Suzanne and I talk about it before, we've said, Suzanne, that we want to be able to catch the movie, you know, within a certain amount of time after we've seen it, rather than seeing movies that are just real old or aren't necessarily in the Winterfest lineup. And so Hallmark did it. I don't know if it was because we had our conversation, but they definitely did it, and the movie came back. And so I was able to see it on Sunday. And the great news is coming up this weekend, you're going to be able to see them again. And so if you happen to miss any of the movies we've been talking about in Winterfest, have no fear. They are coming back. They're going to run for a couple days, and you don't want to miss it because I know you want to know what we've been talking about.
That's right. So make sure you watch the movie because what we do, we don't recap the entire movie. We want to pick out what we liked about it, what we enjoyed, what's worth talking about. And you get to go and watch the movie for yourself with a wonderful perspective in mind. Okay, so let's talk about it. So Ben and Cara has been dating for an entire year. They met last year at the, again, coming back from the first movie, it was called Claire Lake Resort. So it's a year later, they've been dating, and here it is New Year's Eve, and they are together. And Megan goes and helps her friend figure out what's the cutest dress for her to wear for her New Year's Eve. And then they're off to go on their resort. Megan, so much has changed. So much has changed. So Claire is now in grad school. She has her second book coming out, whereas last year she was still working and had just been accepted into grad school. Ben was working for a company that he started, and now he left that company and he's starting a new company. And so that's really, really cool. So they're figuring out the names and all the great little details, but they have a fresh new start, and that's really, really cool.
And I like the fact that they're doing it together. You know, Kara and Ben seem to be very much in love, and but they're supporting each other because they're going on this vacation, and unfortunately things have happened, and he's got to do a little work on the vacation. But I just love the way that she was very accepting of that, and she just throughout the whole movie just very encouraging of him as well as him of her. They were allowing each other to be who they were. And so I really enjoyed that part. And of course, our other two characters kept to their true tradition too, Megan and Sean, in the fact that, they're workaholics. But Sean has now made a huge decision to change his job and change the location of where he does his job And so this weekend at the lodge is going to be life-changing for all four of them.
Yes. And I really, really like that. So they all get to the lodge. However, the resort. However, Megan wasn't supposed to go. She didn't think she was going to go. She was just going to stay back in Seattle and work. When she goes into, which was something different. So last year she was working for a completely different company, and she was an assistant. And now she has an assistant at a new company doing what she loves. She's still a worker bee, and she's multitasking in different assignments when she finds out that the current supervisor wants to start a whole new venture with the magazine, leaving them with a travel section. And so what better way for her to go meet her best friend and get a little vacation time? So she volunteers, being the worker bee that she is, to go to Clear Lake and do just that. So she's there working. And so Megan and Ben, I like that. Megan and Ben, I think they really want to see the two of them get together. They're two friends, because Ben's best friend is Sean and Megan's best friend is Cara. So as soon as she walks in, the first thing she says to Megan is she hurt her ankle, and could she go to the medical unit and, take care and get something for her. Well, actually, she insisted. That's what happened. She said she was going to go. But Megan, the worker bee, said, oh, no, I'll do it for you. And that was perfect because they knew her so well, right?
Absolutely. True to her form, taking on all the hats. And I also thought it was cute, Suzanne, how she not only raised her hand when she was in these meetings and whatnot, she also raised the hand of her assistant.
Right.
This assistant ends up coming with her. And as the story goes on, they're quick to explain who he is and the fact that he has a girlfriend.
And that was to make Sean feel very comfortable.
Absolutely. So the movie continues on, and they're now at the lodge, and Megan's actually come to do some work, even though she was gonna sneak in a little bit of time with her friend, just a few hours really, because she only had a day to do everything that she had raised her hand to do, and raised her assistant's hand. But things quickly began to change when she got there, and she saw, that they had a wonderful surprise for her. But, also in that same process, while she was doing all this work, she still had time to ask her magazine, someone on her magazine, or should I say at her magazine, to review Kara's book, or Kara's book. And so that was pretty neat too, where she, as busy as she was, she still had time for her friend, and she still had time to kind of, I don't know if it was help the friend out, but provide the friend with some great feedback.
Which was really important for this movie. I think very important regarding this movie, because the ending was completely different than what Cara originally wrote the book out to be. So that was kind of cool. So we get to see Ben actually knows what the original ending was, and he's concerned, but doesn't want to be overbearing with his girlfriend. So he just kind of mentioned certain things, but again, letting her be herself, be true to herself. He's just supportive of whatever decision. But initially, he just thinks that everything about the book is exactly the way she wants it. And so later he finds out that's a little different.
Yeah, and another thing that I liked about that whole scenario with that is it wasn't a sappy movie. There were a whole lot of moving parts to this movie. You've got Ben and Cara, you've got Megan and Sean, you've got the wife of the gentleman that Ben is trying to do business with. You've got the niece coming in. There's just so many moving parts. And once again, Hallmark did a wonderful job. I did not get lost in one of those storylines. Every one of them were clear. Every one of them had a message. Every one of them you could receive something from. And if the truth be told, almost every one of them, especially if you are involved in relationships, whether it's friends, relatives, girlfriend and boyfriend, whatever the case is, co-worker, whatever it is. I mean, there were all these storylines going on, but you could see yourself in at least one of them. You did not get lost. They were very clean-cut lines in the sand, so to speak, as the movies were concerned. And so I really enjoyed that. One of the things that I take away from Hallmark all the time, whether it be this movie, Suzanne, or their other movies, is one of the things that Hallmark puts out there all the time is that you've got to be willing to trade the big stuff for the people you love.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. Okay, so let's just talk about the takeaways, because
Okay.
that's what we do best. All right, so tell me, you go first. What were your takeaways with the different moving parts?
Oh, wow. So to be honest with you, Suzanne, recently I lost a very dear friend. And so, friendships and those type of things are just so dear to me, and support. I tell my husband all the time, I'm your helpmeet. That's what I'm supposed to do, And so when I looked at this movie, that was the one thing that I really took away from it. Remember, I talked about all the different moving parts. Well, in each one of them, someone was supporting someone else, whether it was Sean supporting his sister by keeping an eye on the niece, whether it was Kara supporting Ben, even with trying to help him grow his business and get approval from the gentleman for his business. But so that was one of my biggest takeaways, again, was the friendships and the support that they provided one another.
I did. I love that as well. And it's one of those things that it was almost like a friendship check. Am I doing a good job with my friendship? Because it wasn't just one-sided, it was equal. Megan was very supportive of Cara. Cara was very supportive of her. Ben was supportive. It was great. And then even when the niece does come into the play, Megan is supporting Sean and saying, okay, well, let's work together and I can help the niece. And the niece already knew what she did for a living, and she was just fascinated by her. And she did not withdraw and say, oh, this is just my time with Sean. She poured herself into this young woman. And I thought that was a good message, that you always make time to give to somebody younger than you who might be interested in the field that you are going in. So I like that she kind of did a little mentoring at that moment.
Yes, yes. And sidebar, okay, those dresses were the bomb.
Yes, they were. That's the greatest part.
When Megan went over to help Kara pick out her dress for the event,
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, for New Year's Eve, she went through several dresses. In her words, she said that Kara had to try on all her dresses to see if they still fit. But those were some nice dresses. I promise you, I love those dresses. I just thought, oh my goodness. And the one she wears at the end of the movie, and so you're gonna have to go see the movie so you can see which dress I'm talking about. But the one she wears at the very end, I like that dress. I think I want to call Hallmark and ask them, hey, can I get that?
I agree. Those dresses was cute. When she first walked in, I thought, oh, she's going to wear obviously the dress that she's wearing. But no, it just got better and better. And so, yeah, I definitely love the little fashion part of it. Even the ski clothes, because they're out skiing, even those clothes are super, super cute. Makes you think that if I do have to go to the snow, I want to go to the snow in style just like them.
Oh, cute. You know what else was cute about the skiing scenes is, last year, Megan and Sean ran into each other.
Yes.
And then did you see it this year? Also, they ran into each other. She ran into him and really didn't even know that was him that she had hit until they were actually getting up off the snow and realized, here we are again. And so I thought that was kind of cute for those that, something that Hallmark did to help those of us who watched last year recall how this all began in the first place. And so they did a good job of keeping the movies connected, if I can say that, because, we've talked about the way they wrote this particular movie this year. There is room for a sequel.
Oh, yes. There can definitely be a part 3. I'm here for it as well. So go right ahead, because I'll be waiting next year with my blanket for it if you guys decide to do that, Hallmark. Okay, so all right, let's talk about Megan and Ben. So Megan, this author she's writing her second book, and she didn't even realize that she's written a book based off of her and Ben, and their initials are the exact same. Yeah. But she changes the ending, and the ending wasn't true to who she was. Her publisher asked her to change the ending, and so when she changed the ending, it really changed the storyline, and that to me was my take home about this movie, because that's when I realized this movie was about fear. Because in the review, the person who's doing it says, hey, the author didn't stay true to everything that she had learned, and that basically that specific part was about fear, and how you got to let go of fear, walk away from fear, so that you can accomplish everything that you are meant to do. So I really, really love that message. And that's when I was able to really look at everybody who was in the movie. Here you have Sean. He's left one job in Seattle to go someplace else. So he had let go of fear. Megan, who was an assistant, she now has an assistant. So she had moved up and also left fear. Cara was in grad school. Ben was starting his company. So I was like, okay, so they've done a great job of allowing themselves to explore life and live it to more of a full capacity, not limiting themselves by fear of the unknown. I think that was a really positive message. And so if anyone needs reinforcement, go watch the movie, because I definitely got that message.
Well, and as you talk about the fear that they all were dealing with, all four of them seemed to conquer the fear that was keeping them back professionally. But personally, they really had not addressed those fears. Because if you remember, when Sean and Megan went back home, it was all about missed emails and missed phone calls and all of these different things. So while they did let go of the fear that was holding them back professionally, there was still some fear that needed to be addressed in all four of their lives personally.
And they did. And that's what was so good about it. So they addressed those fears, and it allowed them to have a completely different ending, so much to the point where Cara decided she wanted to have the same ending that she originally wrote. And it really changed everybody's perspective. And I think everybody's life was affected, because now Sean and Megan are having a real heart-to-heart conversation when they discovered, you know what, when we went back to Seattle, we didn't do probably some of the things of getting closer, because we really enjoyed what was here at the resort, but the fear of the unknown. And then, so you see that, like you said, that personal level of fear that they had to deal with. And before we know it, they have decided to be a couple. And I really, really like that. So they took off those fears in their personal lives, and it allowed them to have some great things. So now, obviously, this movie is called One Winter Proposal. And even Cara was dealing with some fears. And as a result of her letting those personal fears go, One Winter Proposal means that somebody got engaged. And it was Ben and Cara. So I love that.
Absolutely. And I like something he said as they are coming together and recognizing that they're going to the next level. And that was, he said, I don't have to surprise you, because, that's his thing. Excuse me. Suzanne, that was his thing, always trying to surprise her. And for some reason, she had this uncanny way of always finding out what was going on. And she even found out about the proposal. But he finally realized that even though he couldn't surprise her, that she could still enjoy the journey, that she could still enjoy the story. And so can I say that's also true about Hallmark? Because, if you're Hallmark fans like we are, and you're interested in all things Hallmark, and you're following all things Hallmark, you kind of always know how it's going to end. The guy usually gets the girl.
But the journey is always worth watching.
Yes, even though they don't surprise us, it's always worth the journey and worth the story. So with that, and I know we're not finished, Suzanne, but I definitely don't want those that are watching this to miss the different storylines that we've had a chance to share with each other. So I want them to go out to our YouTube page and subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube page and tell us what your takeaways are from these great movies. I'm so excited. Like every time I watch one, I stay for the end credits so I can see what's coming on next week. I'm just excited.
Me as well. And so, yes, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Set the notifications so you don't miss any of our friends sharing about these great Hallmark movies. We really appreciate your time this day, and I know you're going to enjoy this movie. Next weekend, we'll be right back to share more stories of our personal recap of what, our little life lessons that we got. So thank you again, and we can't wait to see you next week. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and share. Have a great night.
Good night.